Ian's thesis defense. As you all know, he's been here a really long time. And it's time to be done. So, in typical thesis defenses, the talk, please save all your material questions till the end. We'll just take clarification questions right now. Ian, you're going to talk for about 45 minutes or so, and then we'll open up for questioning. So go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Anand. Thank you, everyone, for coming to my thesis defense. Actually, thank you, Anand, for coming all the way from Colorado. And but you went to Chicago first. And then I'm just like I had to do this.
I saw the size question.
And thank you, John, for coming from Georgia Tech. So here, today I'm going to talk to you all about my work on personal informatics and the role of contextual information and how we can help people find factors that affect their behavior. And this is work that I did with Anand Day and Jody Ferrazzi. And my other committee consists of Nikki Gipner and John Stasser. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the donuts and the bagels. Later on, if you stay towards the end, the bagels and the donuts will make sense. So, to help me introduce you to personal informatics, I'm going to use an example of Alice. So Alice just entered college, and she noticed that she started gaining weight. She's freshman 15, right? This got her really worried because she has a family history of heart disease. So she thought, you know what, I should manage my time. I should try to manage my time better so she can find opportunities to become more active. And the way she did this was she tracked her physical activity to see how active she is every day. And after a while of collecting her physical activity information, she reflected on it to see what times she's active or not. And here she could see the times that she's inactive. And also she can see the times that she's active. But unfortunately, there's no information of what factors were actually affecting her to become active or inactive, right? And one way for her to figure out what they're active during this particular time is to look at the calendar. Okay, she probably had forgotten what she already did during those times. So you can see in her calendar what she did. Another thing that she could have done was if she maybe tracked her location using GPS every day, maybe she can use that information to help her figure out where she was during those times when she was active and inactive. Another thing that she could track also is the effect of physical activity on her weight over time. And there's a lot of other information that she could collect also, like food consumption, general health, and mood information. And if you want to see a whole list of the different kinds of information that she could have collected, you can visit my website here, which lists about 200 personal informatics tools. But you can see, as you can see here, there are so many different kinds of tools that she could have used, but that she has to manage all these different kinds of information together. And for her to track all this information and gather it all together and reflect on it, it's difficult. But what if there's a dashboard where she can look at all the information together? Okay, she can see her physical activity, what she did, where she was, perhaps her weight, or any kinds of information that she thinks might be affecting her physical activity. And I think this is an opportunity. There's 34% of US adults are obese, and 27% of adult internet users have tracked health data online. And this is a recent report from the Pew Internet Report. So if we can make these tools easier for them to use, perhaps they can use these different devices to help them become more active. So what I'm going to present to you today is my work on trying to show evidence for this particular thesis. A personal informatics system that allows users to associate context with behavioral information can better reveal factors that affect behavior compared to systems that only show behavioral information. So the way I did this was first I created a model to guide the design of personal informatics systems. And then I showed some evidence in field studies that context can reveal factors that affect behavior. And then I also explored what kinds of visualization support personal informatics systems should provide. And then I developed a personal informatics dashboard that makes it easier for users to associate different kinds of data in a single interface. So first I'm going to talk about the model of personal informatics. And my goal here was to create a model as a guide in designing personal informatics systems. So I recruited 68 people who use personal informatics tools. And I asked them what tools do they use and what problems did they encounter with these tools. And here are some of the sample questions that I asked. How difficult is it to collect this personal information? How do you explore this collected personal information? And what patterns have you found? Again, if you want to see the transcript of the survey, you can see it on this website. And then what I did through my analysis of the information was I identified problems that people experienced. And then I used the HCI method affinity diagramming to identify the themes from their responses. And then I derived a model composed of 5 stages. And the 5 stages are preparation, collection, integration, reflection, and action. And I'm going to describe briefly each one of these. So I'm going to bring back Alice to help me explain each stage. I don't know what happened with that image. So sorry about that. But now you can see 2 things. So with during the preparation stage, this is the stage when a person might realize that there's something wrong with their behavior, and this is also when they decide what kind of information do I track and what tool do I use. So for the example of Alice, she wanted to become more active, so she decided to track her physical activity, and then she chose to track step counts using a pedometer. And in this particular case, she used a Fitbit pedometer to track her physical activity, and this is the collection stage when people are collecting information about themselves. And then the integration stage is when they take the data that they collected and then transform it into a way for them to reflect on the information. So in this case, the Fitbit pedometer has a way to automatically synchronize with a website. And then the reflection stage is the stage when people reflect on the information. And in this particular case, Alice reflects on the graph of her physical activity, and she can see when she's inactive and when she's active. And lastly, the action stage is the stage when people take what they've learned from their reflection and then act on that information. And there are several properties to the stages. And there's 4 of them that I described in the paper I wrote about this model. But I'm only going to talk to you guys about 2 of them. The first one is that earlier problems affect the later stages. And the second one is that the difference between unifaceted and multifaceted systems. So the first one is that problems in the earlier stages can affect the later stages. So for example, Alice collected physical activity information, but what if on Friday she forgot to bring her pedometer? So if she reflected on the information during the reflection stage, she would have missed the fact that she was very active on that day. So the problem from the collection stage created problems in the reflection stage. So this means that when we're building personal informatics tools, we shouldn't be focusing on just the collection stage or just the reflection stage, that we should be working on them holistically. The second part is the difference between unifaceted and multifaceted personal informatics tools. This means that the difference between how many kinds of data that the different personal informatics tools are collecting. And when I interviewed people, they said they expressed desire to see association between different facets of their lives. So for example, this person here who tracked medication intake said, if it were easily collected, information on food intake, calories, and fat would make an interesting point of analysis. But unfortunately, most personal informatics systems are unifaceted. They only collect one type of information. There are some examples of personal informatics tools that have multifaceted collection, meaning they collect different types of information, but when people reflect on the information, they reflect on it one by one. They look at each screen one by one. And just to show an example of how multiple types of information might be useful, again, we bring back Alice. And if she had her calendar, and she had collected location information using GPS, and if she had tracked her weight, then she can see associations between these different types of information. So this suggests that we should explore support for collecting data on multiple facets of one's life. And just to summarize the benefits of this model, it identified the problems with existing tools. The model highlights the many challenges of building effective personal informatics tools, and it also serves as a common framework for describing, comparing, and evaluating personal informatics tools. Also, if you want to see a whole list of the problems with the different stages, you can see the document, or also the paper that I wrote about this. So in the next studies that I'm going to describe to you, I'm going to be focusing on the collection, integration, and reflection. Okay? But the reason for this is that if we're going to get to the behavior change during the action stage, we should try to resolve the problem during the early stages like collection and reflection. So again, as I pointed out earlier, since problems in the early stages affect the later stages, we should try to fix the problems in these stages first.